What's happening, everyone, and welcome back to a brand new Enshrouded video. And in today's video, I'm going to be going over what I personally think are the best wands, staffs, and staff charges in the game. To do this, I took the best wands and staff charges, which I have found in the game, to the Sun Temple down in the southeast corner of the map, where all of the enemies are level 30, to see which ones worked the best. Now, this is just my own personal opinion. Other people might think that other wands and staff charges work better, but based off the items I've found in the game, these are what I consider to be the best wands, best staffs, and best staff charges. In order to keep this fair, I made sure that every time I went to the Sun Temple, I had exactly the same equipment on me. The only thing that changed was the wand I was using, the staff I was using, or the staff charge I was using. The equipment I had on me at the time was the Elder Hat, which gives you 28 physical resistance, 42 magical resistance. It gives you plus 15% magical critical strike chance, and plus 12% critical strike damage. I also had on the Elder Chest, which gives you 56 physical resistance, 113 magical resistance, plus 120 health, plus 96 mana. I also had the Elder Gloves on, which give you plus 14 physical resistance, plus 28 magical resistance, plus 9% damage against magical foes, and a plus 12% magical damage multiplier. I also had the Elder Trousers, which gives plus 28 physical resistance, 70 magical resistance, plus 36 mana, and plus 2 mana regeneration. The Elder Boots, which give plus 14 physical resistance, plus 28 magical resistance, plus 4 mana regeneration, and minus 120 mana regeneration delay. I was also using the Ethereal Plane Shield, which gives you plus 9 block, 87 parry power, 130 max durability, and plus 10% shroud resistance. I was using the Commander's Ring, which gives you plus 30 mana and plus 30 health, and the Ring of Rapacity, which gives you minus 20 mana, but plus 20 mana regeneration. I also had pretty much every single magical skill equipped. I reset my skill points. I only had 3 skills in the stamina trees. The rest were all put into magic to try and boost my magic stats as much as possible. Since those were the weapons I was going to be using, I was going to be using purely magical weapons and spells and that sort of thing. For the staff and staff charge, which is at the bottom of my recommendation list in Enshrouded, is the Hopeful Glimmer staff and the Chain Lightning staff charge. I only have the Hopeful Glimmer staff in epic rarity. It is level 25 though, and it has a base of 47 power, plus 9 shock magic damage twice, Precise, which increases your critical hit chance by 5%, and Vicious, which increases backstab damage by 20%. Like I said, this paired up with Chain Lightning, which is a rare level 12 staff charge. It has a base of 69 damage, costs 65 mana to cast, and its cast time is 1 second. Now, don't get me wrong, the fact it only takes a second to cast is absolutely fantastic, and I also really like how it does hit multiple enemies at one time. The big drawback for me is I haven't been able to find an eternal version of this, so I have to keep making them, and then I find that it does actually take a lot of staff charges to kill some of the higher level, higher health enemies, so that to me is a huge drawback. And I also feel like it doesn't really do that much damage to enemies when you are using it. Like I said, it's great for hitting large groups of enemies, but I don't feel like the actual amount of damage it does is really worth the time you have to put in to craft the staff charges. And then, yeah, I think the time to kill is far too long with this staff charge and this specific staff. Maybe there's a better staff out there for using the Chain Lightning staff charge. I haven't found it yet, and I can only give you my own personal opinion. Out of all of the staffs and staff charges I used, this combination was the worst one. It was the one I found hardest to use. It's the one which took the longest time to actually kill off all of the enemies, I felt. And just generally, I really didn't enjoy using it because it felt like it wasn't that powerful compared to other staffs and staff charges I have available to me. Like I said at the start of the video, I had all of the skills active, which boosted my lightning damage, and I still felt like that wasn't really good enough to take out these large groups of enemies, especially at the higher levels in the game. The next staff on my list was the Mirage Legendary Staff, which I had at level 25. It has 47 power, plus 9 shroud magic damage 3 times, and spiritual increases mana regeneration by 1 twice. Since this staff was based around shroud damage, I paired it up with the Shroud Meteor staff charge, which is a rare level 27 staff charge and does a base damage of 205. It costs 135 mana to cast. It also costs 5 shroud time and takes 3.2 seconds to cast. The The reason this staff and staff charge is so low on my list is because I felt like it was very difficult to use. I felt like it did quite a lot of damage when it did hit, but getting it to hit the target was a bit of a problem for me. I felt like even if there was nothing between me and the target I was trying to hit, sometimes the Shroud Meteor would just drop right in front of me rather than trying to hit the target I was actually casting it at. Again, I don't think you can get an eternal version of this staff charge as well, so you do have to craft it at the Alchemist, and it's pretty good for hitting individual targets or dealing with larger groups of less powerful enemies, as long as they are close together. Do I think it's the best staff and staff charge in the game though? Absolutely not. I understand why people do like it because it can do a large amount of damage in one hit, but again, I do think there are better staff charges and staffs in the game to use to do more damage to individual targets and even large groups of enemies. I feel like this is a superb mining spell charge because you leave craters all over the map every single time you use it. It's definitely better than the chain lightning staff charge, but it's still, to me, not quite as good as the fireball staff charge, purely because of how difficult I found trying to actually hit targets with it. I don't feel like it has a very good range, so this is second bottom on my list of staffs and staff charges. So the staff that I would recommend as second in my list is the Shroud Weaver staff. It's a legendary staff, and I am lucky enough to have it at level 35, simply because I found it before they nerfed it when you do find it in the chest in the wild. It has 62 power, and gives plus 12 fire magic damage twice. It's precise, so increases critical hit chance by 5%. It's vicious, so increases backstab damage by 20%, and has recharge, which increases health regeneration by 1. Now, because this is a mainly fire damage staff, I paired it up with the Eternal Fireball staff charge. It's an epic staff charge at level 17, and does base damage of 114, costs 94 mana, and has a 2-second cast time. Now this is my go-to combination. I love the Shroud Weaver staff and the Eternal Fireball staff charge. I think it does an absolutely incredible amount of damage, especially to lower level enemies, and holds up quite well against higher level enemies and enemies with higher health. You can cast it quite quickly. I feel like it's got a very good range on it, and if you choose the right skills, when you do cast an Eternal Fireball, it does do chain damage as well, so that's how you end up killing multiple enemies in one hit if they are a lower level. The enemies I'm fighting are level 30, they are the max level in the game, so I wasn't expecting to one-hit them at all, but it doesn't take me long to get through them using this combination of the Eternal Fireball staff charge and the Shroud Weaver staff. But as with every weapon combination within the game, there are some enemies that this combination seems to struggle with, so just because you're using this and I recommend it, doesn't mean you're going to be able to defeat every single enemy in the game really easily. But out of the equipment I've found, and what I've seen online, and the skills I've chosen, this is one of my most recommended combinations, and you can see on screen it does incredible damage, it has great range, you can attack multiple enemies at once if you do use the correct skills, and it has incredible individual target damage as well. So the best staff and staff charge combination I've found is using the Shroud Weaver legendary staff, which I'm not going to go over because I've covered it already in this video, and the Eternal Acid Bite staff charge. If you haven't used this, it's absolutely incredible. It's an epic staff charge at level 22, does 165 base damage, costs 120 mana, and takes 3 seconds to cast. This staff charge, combined with the Shroud Weaver staff, can one-shot pretty much most enemies in the game, including some of the bosses. If you're following the game, you will see a lot of content creators posting about this staff charge, because it's just a bit overpowered. So when I was using the Eternal Acid Bite and the Shroud Weaver staff, I found absolutely no issue when trying to take out large groups of enemies or individual enemies, even level 30 enemies in this particular area, which I've used throughout this video. You'll see all it takes really is 1 or 2 casts, and then they tend to die. And that even includes the mini bosses that are here as well. The one complaint I have about this staff charge is that it only sort of projects out from where you are stood. So if you are stood at the top of the stairs, trying to hit an enemy who is at the bottom of the stairs, or even on the stairs, if they aren't on the same level as you, the staff charge will just completely miss them. So you can't do what I've done for most of this video, which is use the height advantage and stand on top of a building and take out enemies running around on the ground. You have to be on the same level as them to make the most out of this staff charge, which is very dangerous in some situations, but if you manage to pull it off, the staff charge will absolutely destroy them. You can craft this staff charge at the alchemist as well, so if you just follow the quests throughout the game, it will eventually unlock. And once you get it, it's definitely worth using regardless of what type of magic you like to use within the game. The Eternal Acid Bite is by far the best staff charge I've found so far in Enshrouded. When it comes to wands, I did try out the Frozen Core wand, which was a level 25 legendary wand in the game. It has a base of 47 damage, gives +2 mana regeneration, 250 max durability, 11% overcharge, 0.6 seconds attack speed, +14 ice magic protection, +14 fire magic protection, and another +14 ice magic protection. It also gives 2 mana leech, which gives on hit 5% leech damage as mana. And because it's 2 of them, that's ×2. Now, I didn't have great feelings using this wand. I didn't massively love it. I didn't massively hate it. I felt like it was okay. It wasn't the best I've used. It felt like it did reasonable damage, and paired up with the skills I chose, it felt like it did reasonable damage, but it didn't feel overly powerful, and that's why it's at 4th place on my list of the best wands. The wand in 3rd place is the Scorching wand, which is a legendary level 25 wand. Its base damage is 47, it gives +2 mana regeneration, 250 max durability, 11% overcharge, 0.6 seconds attack speed, +9 fire magic damage, +14 ice magic protection, and +9 magic damage. It also has 2 mana leeches, which is on hit leech 5% damage as mana, so that's twice. Now again, this has been my go-to one because I really like the fire damage in Enshrouded. It felt like it was a little bit more powerful than the ice wand, but again, it wasn't the most powerful. It's the one I've used the most, it's the one I've got used to, so I don't really mind it. I think it is quite powerful. It does deal a lot of damage to some enemies, especially the low level enemies, but when it comes to the higher level enemies, there are wands which do better than this particular one. However, if you do have it and you don't have the next 2 on my list, I'd recommend using it because it's a pretty good all-round wand. Now in 2nd place is the Ritual Tempest wand. This is a legendary level 25 wand. It has a base damage of 47, it gives +1 mana regeneration, 300 max durability, 20% overcharge, it has 0.6 seconds attack speed, and gives +9 shock magic damage 5 times. Now I know I've put this in 2nd place in the video, but in my opinion it's actually joint first with the one that's going to come next. It does an incredible amount of damage, it's very solid, and paired up with the boost that your abilities and skills give it, it handles all enemies pretty well, even these level 30 enemies you see in the video. It has the same attack speed as all of the other ones, it just feels a little bit slow for me, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's just the projectiles when they are actually moving through the air move a little bit slower than other ones. I'm not sure if that's a thing, it's just how it feels to me. But if you have this wand, I would definitely recommend using it. If you don't have it, I'd recommend trying to find it, but it's a struggle to get this specific one because it means opening legendary chests over and over and over again until you actually unlock it. I normally like to keep my staff and my wand as the same type of damage. I'm not quite sure why, it's just how I like to play the game. However, I'd really recommend using this wand along with the Shroud Weaver staff and the Eternal Acid Bite staff charge. With that combination, you're going to deal an incredible amount of damage in quite a short period of time, and you're probably not going to struggle against most enemies you come across. The one that is also joint first is the Helix Legendary Level 25 wand, which deals a base damage of 47, gives +1 mana regeneration, has 300 max durability, 19% overcharge, and 0.6 seconds attack speed. It also gives +9 shroud magic damage 5 times and is an incredibly powerful wand. I went through a phase of using the Helix wand and the Ritual Tempest wand both at the same time. Obviously, when you're in the Shroud, the Helix wand is going to be useless, but against normal enemies, it seems to deal a really high amount of damage and deals with most enemies in the game very well, especially the high level ones. The low level ones just get wiped out really quickly, but the Ritual Tempest wand and the Helix wand do stand up pretty well against the higher level enemies in the game. If you are at the end game of Enshrouded and you do like playing as a wizard, then the Helix wand and the Ritual Tempest wand are the ones I would highly recommend, especially if you can find them at level 25 and at legendary quality. I felt like with these last 2 ones I could be a lot more aggressive, and the enemies didn't really stand as much of a chance as if I used the ice wand or the fire wand. Again, this is all just my personal opinion and my preference in playstyle, but if you are going to play as a wizard, I would highly recommend using the Shroud Weaver staff with the Eternal Acid Bite staff charge, and then the Ritual Tempest wand preferably a legendary quality at level 25, or the Helix wand, which is a legendary wand, hopefully at level 25 as well. If you use those items, you will be pretty strong and powerful in Enshrouded, and you should have very little trouble dealing with most enemies in the game. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm going to say it again. This is just my opinion. I know people are going to comment that there are staffs and wands which are better, or there are better staff charges, and that's fine. People can have their own opinions. This is just my preference, and I can only make videos on the equipment I've actually found in the game. So that is it on today's guide of the best staff charges and wands within Enshrouded. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and please do let me know down in the comment section below what you think are the best pieces of equipment for a wizard in Enshrouded. And if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, make sure to smash a like on it to show support for the game on the channel. And if you are new to the channel and you've enjoyed the video and found it helpful, make sure to subscribe to be kept up to date with all future releases. But other than that, we'll see you in the next video.